Welcome back to the Manor. Julian McBain here, and we are back on Monria. I have finished Mayhem. Facing the wrong direction there. And I have my prize, which is this mask here. So now I've got the Harbinger bronze mask, and I've got the bronze skull. And I didn't do the Christmas one, which I'm kind of regretting. Apparently the reward was a tuxedo, which I did not know about. That was my loss. And part of that was because the holidays are not my best time a lot of times. And Merry Mayhem is one of my favorite events. And I completely pieced out this year. And that's my loss. That's my loss. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't even know what I'm looking for. There we go. So what are we going to do today? We're going to be hunting in the caves. We are going after our Monria chapters. Earlier today, I was actually very fortunate. I was hunting Shoggoth, and I managed to capture chapter 1. So I'm going to briefly go through the 2 chapters I have. And then we're going to go start hunting for chapter 3. So here we go. Monria lost chapter 1. It was in the midst of the dust and darkness that a lone hooded figure watched, as the team quickly collected their belongings and hurried to the surface. Not sure of what they'd really seen, or whether they'd even wanted to think about what they'd seen. In their haste to return to the surface, no one thought to bring back the hoverbike with them. No one really thought it would be of any use at the time, but then nobody really understood the Church of Cthulhu either. They were told to come back to the surface immediately. That was what they were going to do. They were just as glad to get out of that cave. It was only one team member who took a final look around as the others were collecting their equipment. Out of the corner of her eye, Nerissa, one of the newest members of the team, saw something. It was just a glimpse, but she knew she saw something in the corner, in the darkness, not moving, just staring. She felt almost a penetration of thought into her mind, a buzz, a sound, a whisper, and then the words formed. We are the Church of Cthulhu. Your companions should leave here. Only you may stay if you wish to see the marvels we have achieved over these past aeons. The dark-hooded figure stood there, watching, and waiting as the team slowly disappeared up to the surface, waiting to see what Nerissa would do. Waiting to see what the prophecy had foretold. Then just as quietly as it had appeared, the hooded figure disappeared into the background. Back into the shadows. Unseen, knowing they would meet again. As the hooded figure receded into the darkness of the cavern. Hang on, guys. Why won't you take? Okay, well, we'll do this. Summon claim. As the hooded figure receded into the darkness of the cavern, the link to Nerissa's mind was broken, the lingering of the thought burning in her mind, slowly fading but still in her consciousness. What seemed like an eternity was only a moment, however, and she startled out of her dreamlike state when one of her team touched her on the shoulder and asked if she was coming. She took one final look and saw nothing, felt no presence like before, but felt the sensation in the pit of her stomach. A sense that something was definitely down there. And something was definitely dangerous. At the same time, she couldn't help but think that this creature, this unknown entity, was speaking to her. She didn't know if she could tell the others or ask if they'd also heard anything in their minds, or if they would think of her being weak after all. She was the newest member of the team, and no one really knew her yet. No, for now, she would keep it to herself, and see what other clues she could find before she let the others know about her encounter, if it was an encounter at all. So that's actually my first time reading that. That's completely raw new. I hadn't done it yet. The second part I have read, but it's been over a year. So I'm going to be dropping probes while I'm hunting tonight too. I am so far behind on my mining, it's not funny. Like, I really need to catch up on my mining. There's no excuse that I haven't been doing something with this other than I've just been completely and utterly focused on hunting. And I mean, you've seen a couple of my working on mining videos, but I've never been good at it. It had only taken an hour to get to the site, but it seemed like it took an eternity to get back to the command center. The lingering thought remained etched in her mind as if it burned there. She could actually see the words in her mind as they hazed over, eventually disappearing. But the emotion and the feeling still remained. What was it, she wondered. In all of the confusion, no one really took a good look around to find the mining team or even took the time to look for them. She saw no sign of a struggle. No signs of anyone. Not even much equipment, just that hover bike. Where was everyone and everything, she thought? They finally made it back to the command center and were rushed into a debriefing room for a conversation with the security team. Trip Kaminsky and a few other scientists, as well as some of the leaders of the corporation via the intergalactic channel. All right, everyone, take your seats, and let's get this meeting in order, said Hank Powers, the project manager at the station. I just lost my spot. There we are. Everyone is in the private meeting area where only the top executives got a chance to meet once every month or so, depending upon the monthly agenda. It was a common room with not much more than a long table and chairs for all to sit, all aimed at the main screen on the opposite wall on the north. There was a counter on the far wall with refreshments and food if anyone wanted as well. As well as a door in the back that led to another special meeting area reserved only for a select few. In the room, they could see the communications screen completely uninterrupted by other objects. The walls were see-through on the other two sides for full view of the operations, as well as a spectacular uninterrupted view into Monria's surface. Now, however, the usual clear windows, which were covered with a transparency wall matrix polymer protecting from outside elements, was closed off from any interruptions. No one could look in and no one could see out. This polymer was a special addition that DSEC was able to create as one of its patents. Just want to make sure I didn't... Okay, good. Which helped to revolutionize the industry such that people could have the advantage of seeing outside. And not worrying about the elements. It protected from any cosmic storms or even a stray meteorite crashing through the see-through window, as the matrix was practically impenetrable in any of those events. It was this breakthrough technology. There it is. Whoops. Crap. I always hit the wrong button when that happens. Cool if I got a second one. It was this breakthrough technology using some of the newly discovered elements in this system that put DSEC on the map, and everyone wanted this material. Everyone, but it was in short supply. Oh, I did get a second one. Damn. Short supply until now, that is, as this one had practically 5,000 lifetimes of ores and materials they needed to supply most of the known universes. That was why this project was so important, and that was why this new event was putting the project in jeopardy. And Mr. Gabriel Donovan, the CEO, knew deep in his heart, knew without a doubt, that a find of this magnitude would not be as straightforward as it first seemed. So that's fun. I think a couple good mining hits today. Apparently attracting a little attention, too. I mean, realistically, our primary goal is to hunt cultists down here, but I figure while we're running toward the cultists, we can drop some probes. That's always fun. And you never know what you're going to pull up. Oh, we found some more Wisterium. Oh, and we annoyed another cultist. They like to hide behind these rocks for some reason. I don't know why. So yeah, that is the current storyline that we have in the Monria chapters. Virtual Sense does a really good job with their story. I honestly think they're probably the best planet partner for storytelling in the Entropia universe. Overall, I think they've got the most in-depth lore, and it's a really nice addition to EU. To be honest, when it comes to things like the diversity of mobs here on Monria, it leaves a lot to be desired. Monria is a very small moon. There's not a lot to it. There's not a lot of mobs on it. But that simplicity... The simplicity itself actually is its own advantage in a lot of ways. Like, I like having diverse mobs, but diversity for the sake of diversity is not necessarily going to do the job on something like this. What they've really done is they've packed a lot into a little. They took this small area they have to work with, and they've turned it into something pretty incredible. And so, any criticisms I might have, like the fact that there's only 4 mobs on the moon, 5, there's 5, I keep forgetting about the leprechauns, is really made up for in the depth of storytelling and the community that they build. No one has a claim to community building like Virtual Sense does on this in this game. And that is... it's not even close. I mean, let's be facing it. You know? There's good communities in other planet partners, like there's a decent community on Cyrene. There's a decent community on Next Island. Arcadia, when it was really active, had a good community. And it sounds like they might be coming back. I was watching a video by DM Zone this morning, and he put it out a couple days ago, I think. Apparently Arcadia was going through a lawsuit. I don't know a lot about it, but it appears the lawsuit's over, and so they'll be able to resume their operations and start rolling out content. I guess they've got a bunch in the queue. I'm taking this from another source, and it's a secondhand source, or it's not the primary source, it's a secondary source. So, you know, use applicable amounts of salt, you know, grains of salt. But on the same token, if that's the case, then we've got a lot of good stuff coming. But by far, like when I found out Virtual Sense was taking over Toulon, I knew instantly that the amount of content for Toulon was going to explode. It was going to be good. It was going to be in depth. I knew that was going to be the benefit to, and at the time they were Team Monria, right? This is before Virtual Sense called themselves Virtual Sense in a public sense, and that was kind of silly. And I'm kind of sure, I'm sure that they probably were called Virtual Sense officially, or if they weren't, they were going that way. But when they took over Toulon, I knew that Toulon was going to become an order of magnitude better. And from what I understand, they absorbed a lot of Team Toulon. And of course, if any of the Virtual Sense people are watching this, you're free to correct me. And I'm not saying that to disparage the members of Team Toulon who did what they could with what they had. Running a planet partner cannot be an easy job. And I know that the team on Toulon put huge amounts of resources into making it the prettiest planet in the game. In my opinion. In my opinion, it has been and always will and always has been the prettiest planet in the game. Like, Arcadia looks nice. Next Island looks nice. If it was like, if you wanted to find a vacation world, it's Toulon. Like, I would totally buy an apartment there, even though it's the absolute furthest you can get from Calypso. And like, I've thought about going in the Kuhoff instances and just grinding out an apartment, because you can still, I think you can still do that. I think there's still ample apartments to be had. Now, as for me, I mean, that's a lot of work to do, and I wouldn't mind doing it, but this is something I had pledged myself to do. But if there's still apartments left when I'm done doing this, assuming I get through it this year, then Toulon's likely going to be where I go next. And I know that did I start this year on Toulon? I believe I started, no, I was on Cyrena. I started last year on Toulon. Wow, has it really been that long? Maybe I ended last year on Toulon? I don't even remember. I don't even remember. All I know is, like, this is the first time I've been on Monria in more than a year. Well, when I came back before Mayhem, of course. I took the break for Mayhem because I always do Mayhems, but I wanted to try and knock out these chapters. And these chapters are designed to be not fast to gather. Now, when it comes to the Shoggoth, I think part of the reason that I was so successful so quickly is because I have spent hours grinding out Shoggoth for low-level hunting. I mean, even now, if I decided I didn't want to do anything, you know, super high level, that was, you know, higher risk, higher return, which, I mean, it all evens out in the end anyway, but you know what I mean. You know? I go back and I hunt Shoggoth. I'd hunt Shoggoth all day. I actually enjoy low-level hunting, which a lot of people don't. One of my favorite places on Calypso is to hunt an Orthos oil field. It's just the thing. But no, I think that the Virtual Sense team has the best overall storytelling. They do a fantastic job. And I'm not just saying that to make them happy with me, right? Only once have I ever changed content at the request of a developer. And it's because the tone that I came off with made it sound like I was speaking for the developer, and it was unintentional on my part. And after watching the video again, the developer in question was correct, and I issued an apology, and I re-recorded the video. Because I didn't have the know-how on how to edit things at the time. It was all raw, so I literally re-recorded a whole video for that. On the other hand, for the most part, one, all of the opinions on my channel are my own, 100%. I don't speak on anyone else's behalf here unless I very specifically state that's what I'm doing. And to date, that has not been something I've had to do or wanted to do. You know, there are a couple of organizations that I'm with where I do hold an official capacity with them. And so I do have the capability to speak up for them in an official capacity, and I am not interested in doing so. I did not realize this whole corridor is empty. Like, this is the perfect mining area down here. Assuming, of course, there's actual, you know, veins down here to mine. Although I've noticed, especially on places like Monria, the more mobs, the more likely you are to get a hit. It's not like Cyrene where they have a whole island 100% dedicated to mining. Come on. Come on. Oh, you are a lot higher level than I thought. Are they all that high? Oh yeah, that's right. These guys get pretty high level down here. Okay. Catan Partatus, Arch Follower of Cthulhu. And he's got some hit points. Let's see if I can take him. Those plates are helping me out. I don't know what kind of damage this guy does. But I am certainly thankful for having those plates. I got some paint. I got some paint. I got some paint. That's a good sign. Drop a couple probes here. And I don't know if the level of the mob actually affects the likelihood that the chapters will drop. Let's pull him out. Proselyte of the Schuthend. I actually took that level 32 pretty handily. Like, I took damage, but it wasn't... Like, the last time I was here, it hurt. It was tough taking level 32. I could do it. And as long as I was smart, I wasn't in any serious danger. But I didn't even have to heal that time. What did we get? Electrokinetic and Apparently I'm level 19 in the Sweat Gatherer profession. I gotta remember how to reply. I got this message from Alien Rogue with the Cyrene Fap. The Epic Fap quest. And for those of you who are not Entropia Universe players who think I'm saying something dirty, funny as it would be, no, we're talking about a fast aid pack, which is a healing device here. I believe that at the time that this was designed, that wasn't an allegory for anything in particular. That came later. So I'm actually happy to be down here hunting cultists again. This needed to happen. Which makes me sound kind of like a psychopath, but what I mean by that is I need to get down here and like do some at-level hunting that wasn't mayhem oriented. See where my limits have grown to. I think that I'm actually getting to the point where I might be able to start taking shoves. Okay. We can do this. We just defeated one of them, so I'm not too worried about this one as long as he doesn't get like a massive crit. I should probably scan these guys. I don't even know what loot skills they use. Like, are they mutants? Are they animals? I neither see the skinning nor the scourging in here. I would be very curious to find out. Hell, if Team Virtual Sense, if DME or if any of you are watching this, if you could please drop a comment and let me know what the looter skill is for cultists. That would be awesome. It'd be pretty cool if I got a third chapter, the third chapter tonight, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I got a lot of hunting to do before that happens. Although with these guys in the caves, I think the drop rate is a lot higher, and it's mostly because they're a lot higher level relative to what's in the overworld. I think the average overworld cultist is like level 14, and you get down here, and the average one is 26. It's really night and day. And like everything in Entropia Universe, it's very much on a Pareto curve, which means that the strength of the mob is much higher per level a dynamic. So like 25 to 26 is a much sharper curve than like 1 to 2. There was a type of diagram I used to use to measure power levels, and it was a teenage fantasy, but it was so it's kind of arbitrary, but the idea was that on a ranked scale from 0 to 9, where 9 was like demigod level, you know, like a Warhammer Demon Prince, or, you know, not a creature that would be considered all-powerful to us, but was still subservient to some form of deity. Starting at level 0 for inanimate objects and level 1 for things like mice. Every level, and using the number 3 as the average human, then each number, like from 1 to 2, 2 is twice as powerful as 1, 3 was twice as powerful as 2, 4 was twice as powerful as 3. So what you'd have is that 4 was 4 times as powerful as 2, and 5 was 8 times as powerful as 2. So you had this spiraling increase. And that is actually, and I didn't know it at the time, we came up with this, I think I was in my sophomore or junior year. My friends and I used this to, we called it the LARP Martial Arts Tournament. And basically we'd whack on each other with boffers. Not surprising that I ended up in fencing, am I right? but we use that as a measure of strength. And I believe that there is a wisdom in that we didn't quite understand. Like we nailed the archetype, we nailed the idea, but we didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't know why. And what we ended up doing is we ended up nailing the Pareto principle on the head. And now, I mean, I work with money all the time, right? So the Pareto principle is part of my life. That's just the way it is. But I find it very curious that there is a concept so ingrained into the psyche that we managed to lock it down in a form of play without even knowing what it was. Like, I had no idea that it was part of Matthew. I wasn't religious at the time. My family actually kept me from being religious at the time, in large part. That's actually probably why I started looking into things like Wicca, which I don't have any issues with the people who follow that path. I have disagreements with the path itself. And if that's what suits a person who decides to follow that path, more power to you. It is a path I followed for many years, and I discovered that it wasn't for me. And that's my statement on that. But the idea that we nailed down that fundamental law, and I didn't know it was a fundamental law at the time, but we nailed it down in that form of play, I find very, very interesting. And I wonder if that's part of the reason, like, because we were able, I came up with the system and everyone agreed to it because it all seemed to make sense to them. And even as teenagers that were not fully cognitively developed, right? We weren't mature. You know, we were a bunch of testosterone-fueled boys, because that's what boys are, trying to figure this thing called life out. And we nailed down one of the most fundamental laws of life without ever knowing where it came from. And this is before you heard about the more political ramblings about the 1% and stuff like that. And yeah, they're a thing, and they're not a very well understood phenomenon, and everyone just assumes that the 1% are the 1% of money, and that is true. That's the most commonly cited one, but they also they tend to forget to mention the 1% of composers, or the 1% of Entropia universe players, or the 1% of YouTubers. And that's something that we really need to nail down too. And you can't redistribute that. That's just part of the natural law, right? Like we can redistribute resources to, at least in some respect, using some form of top-down arbitrary power structure, where we take from people who succeed in these things and give it to people who are not so successful in one form or another. And whether or not you think that's part of the common good is entirely up to your political standing, generally speaking. And I'm not going to really dig into that too much, but the fundamental law is that there's... I'm trying to remember how this works. It's, if you've got 1,000 people doing a thing, 50% of the results are going to be in with 30 of the people. And that exponentially plays itself out. So if you've got 10,000, then 100 of them will have 50% of the results. And it really pairs down like that. It's a very harsh reality, is what it is. It's a very harsh reality. And a lot of people don't like to deal with it. And that's a problem, because it's a harsh reality we all have to face and we all have to deal with. So, and if you can't tell, like, I tangented like this, and it's because I was watching a video. It was an interview between Jordan Peterson and Glenn Loury. And Glenn Loury is a Harvard, I believe he was Harvard. He's an MIT educated economist, but he taught at Harvard, if I remember correctly. And he has quite the story. You should look him up. Glenn Loury is... I've listened to his story, and he's just... The shit he's gone through is incredible. He's a very intelligent person. He wrote several papers. I'm going to actually look these papers up since I've got access to JSTOR being in college again. Everything he says is very well thought out and intelligent, and he doesn't jump to conclusions. Like, you can tell he's very slow to kind of pose questions and postulate over what he's trying to think about. And that can't be good. I just wanted to see what was in the cave back there, and I ran into a wave event. That wasn't supposed to happen. And we are coming up to the end of our time, and I got stuck in a wave event. That's not good. So yeah, I would recommend you watch that interview. It's a good interview. I'm about an hour and 38 minutes into an hour and 45, so they're kind of like closing up things. And yes, I do have it on my laptop over here. But worthwhile. And I found that very, very interesting. But I got onto this because I wonder if the levels of the mobs in Entropia universe also follow the Pareto curve, or if it's just a coincidence that they appear to do so. Now, I want to kind of explore this back cave here. Maybe we'll do it, like, how much time do we have? I think we're beyond the 30-minute mark. We are. Maybe we'll do that in the next video. Is that we'll kind of pop back here and we'll take a look at what's in that cave. I do have some more raw footage on the Mayhem, and I do plan on putting that out. I did not have the time to do it this week because I had lodged yesterday and it was an annual meeting. And for those of you who don't know, the annual meeting is the meeting that takes like forever to do. And so unfortunately I did not get that. I was not able to put a video together for today like I wanted, because what I've been doing is I've been editing the video together, and I've been doing like my voiceover, and then I pivot and I do like I cut in pieces like the audio from the Borg on the last video, which that was a lot of fun to make, by the way. That was a lot of fun to make because I was actually talking about something that was important to me, and I was able to cut in scenes from movies, and I was kind of experimenting with things. So that was a lot of fun. This one is going to be strictly raw. It's 9 o'clock at night now. I'm doing straight raw video, so there's not going to be a lot of extra here, but expect more edited than not edited going forward, which I believe I already mentioned more than once, but just to reinforce that. Now we're going to kind of jet ourselves to the other end of the cave here. Yes, I am aware I have left the wave event area. What are we doing for... Oh, wow, we've been doing pretty good for loot. That's a good sign. That's good. So we're going to kind of pop over here, and this will allow me to tango myself out. So, okay. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. And as always, I really appreciate all the support, and we will see you in the next one. Huge shout out to my patrons. If you want to become a patron, please go to patreon.com/JulianMcBain, Julian with an E. Thank you.